the Healing Through Love podcast with Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson. Elissa Wilson discusses with us how we can find magic in the everyday grind of life, especially when we are on a healing journey, in episode 96.
Type will express something different to be able to ground. So a grounding exercise doesn't have to fit in a little box and look a certain way. The way that I ground and the way that you ground and every one of your listeners will all do it slightly differently and feel called to do it in slightly different ways. So yeah, the quiz is just an invitation to discover what kind of a ritual might best suit you to start your journey with, and gives you a little taster of that.
Welcome to another episode of Healing Through Love. Each week, we share ideas, experiences, and resources to increase the awareness of domestic and family violence and to empower survivors to grow and thrive. We talk with experts who share their advice, or with people who have experienced abuse, no matter where they are on their journey. This is all about healing through love. And now, here are your hosts, Charlene Lynch and Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to the Healing Through Love podcast, the space where stories of strength, resilience and transformation unfold. I'm your host, Rose Davidson, and I'm honoured to be your guide on this journey of empowerment and healing. Today we have a very special episode for you. So whether you're driving or sipping a cup of tea or simply taking a moment for yourself, I want you to know that you are in a safe space. Healing Through Love is more than a podcast. It's a community, a beacon of hope, and a reminder that you are not alone. In this episode, our guest will share a story that resonates with the core of our mission, a story that illuminates the power of love, resilience, and the unwavering strength that lies within each of us. So settle in, take a deep breath, and let the healing journey begin. And before we start today's episode, just a quick reminder, if you find value in our episodes, please consider supporting us by subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your engagement helps us reach more hearts and spread the message of healing. Today, my guest is Elissa Wilson. Now, Elissa, we had a bit of an issue last time. Unfortunately, it didn't go well, but she's gracefully decided to come back, and we're going to be talking about mystical moments and transforming the mundane and how to find magic in everyday grind of life, especially when you are on a healing journey and find that connection with our hearts. Now, Elissa is a master space holder and a leader of embodied rituals. She helps women to navigate the journey and the trials and tribulations of feelings and all those really great things that we all need to be doing. Elissa's expertise primarily caters to women at the beginning of their journey and who feel that they haven't found what they're looking for yet and are perhaps feeling a little overwhelmed and tend to outsource their power and their agency. She understands the challenges they face and offers trauma-informed, creatively orientated guidance that allows everyone to become self-source. She has over 7 years' experience of personal inquiry and magic making. And I'd like to welcome Elissa to the program and podcast today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me again, Rose. We get to do this again. I'm excited.
Please, and tell our audience, how did you start this beautiful journey of yours?
Yeah, well, it's such a interesting concept because I get asked that, and what comes to mind is like, what was that event that happened that sent you sort of on this other track? But to be fair, I didn't have an event. There wasn't a one thing. I just had a year or so, just this period of time where I just felt like I just wanted to cry. I didn't know where it was coming from or what what was actually happening. I had no reason for it to be happening or anything like that. On the outside, life looked pretty great. But yeah, what I can see now was that was a culmination of 25 plus years of suppressing myself, suppressing my emotions. I was so good at fooling the outside world of this magical life that I created that I'd fooled myself as well. And I think just the suppressing and the suppressing and the suppressing just finally got to that point where I couldn't suppress anymore. And although I spent quite a lot of time trying to express and cry, I would do everything I could think of, have showers to try and cry in the bottom of the shower. I'd watch sad movies, anything that I could, and it just wasn't working. And that's what sort of started me on getting a little bit curious about, okay, well, what's going on? And yeah, that led me down the rabbit hole, I guess, of personal development, which to me really is emotional and spiritual development. And along the way, that wrecking ball came through and cracked me open, and so did all those emotions.
That's and it's good that sometimes we get to our lowest point, and we find that little nugget that helps us to reach out, whether it's spiritually or otherwise, to find those magical moments within our lives that do exist even at our lowest points.
Yeah, absolutely. And hindsight is a beautiful thing, and you can get a lot more perspective. But when we can bring a little bit more awareness and intention, especially in those times where we feel like things are really dark or do feel insurmountable, or we're feeling overwhelmed, if we can intentionally find those little pockets of magic, they just help us to ground in the present and ground in that sense of, we can keep doing this, we can do this again. It's happened once, we can do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some ways that we can transform our mundane lives into something that's really magical?
Yeah, one of my favorite practices is a beverage ceremony or ritual. And that beverage really can be anything. It can simply be a glass of water, cup of coffee, cup of tea. I'm a huge tea fanatic now. I have so many different types of herbal teas. Um, Even for some, it might be like a dram of whiskey, or, it could really be anything. The idea, though, is just to take that moment and to connect and be intentional. What is it that you want to connect with? Choosing the cup that you're using as well, like just being that little bit, bringing intention to it, and the intention to connect with yourself. And in terms of like a beverage or a ritual that incorporates a beverage, to take the moment and connect with the cup, connect with what's in the cup, look at it, invoke all of your senses, and look at the color, see how it moves in the cup, feel the cup. Is there any temperature? Smell it. What does that evoke? Can you hear any like bubbles popping or any fizzing or foam? And then, of course, taking that first sip and really savoring that and connecting with it. So there's this misconception often that rituals have to take a lot of time. And they really don't have to, because everybody has a drink, but it's not so much taking any more time, but it's just slowing down within that time that connects. So yeah, it's it's almost like you can time travel a little bit and warp time, because sitting down for a cup of coffee might take 5 to 10 minutes, but you're using that time much more intentionally.
And that's the whole point, I think, of finding those magical moments, is being intentional and actually drawing your attention to that particular moment, being present in the moment and and not letting anything from the outside, encroach on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything then can become a ritual, or you can bring reverence to it. Another favorite place of mine is the bathroom, and stepping into a shower. Those walls sort of create this magical portal, and you can jump in the shower and just have your shower and jump back out again, or you can jump in the shower and just notice your hands touching your body, your hands washing your hair. You can process through any emotions that you're feeling, whether they be happy, sad, joyous, which can be just as scary as well as things like anger and grief and that kind of thing. I do find the water is just so beautiful when processing emotions.
Yeah, I love to just take my time in the shower sometimes and just give myself a head massage like they do at the hairdressers. It's so relaxing, just that and it sort of washes away all my cares and all my worries for that particular moment. But you've got to want to do it too, because some people don't find that being intentional with a particular ritual, they don't find that it comes easy to them. So how do we find that way for rituals to become easier?
It's just finding that, allowing that to all feel a little clunky to start with. And, as much as I say that, they don't really take extra time, at the beginning, it kind of feels like it takes more time because you have to think about it, because you're retraining your brain, creating new neural pathways to do something in a different way. So it feels like it takes a little bit more energy. And that's why it's really good to start with things that A, you already do, and B, that you actually enjoy doing already. So whether it's, taking that little bit of slowing down in your nighttime ritual, or if it's in the shower, or a little bit of gardening or reading or having your tea, like whatever it is that you already do, that you love to do, and then creating a little bit more intention and reverence with that to connect with yourself. And that's the easiest place to start, because you're already, like, those neural pathways are already mostly formed. You're just adding onto it a little bit. And when you start to feel that connection with yourself, like, we never lose it, but at the same time, we can feel completely cut off from that connection to our bodies and to our intuition and our higher self. So any way that you can help to discover that, awaken it, connect with it in little ways, the consistency is the thing that helps bring it into something that is a little bit more solid, that you're able to grasp more readily. And as soon as you start to be able to do that, you'll want to look for other ways and other things to bring in to connect more and more.
Don't get me started on the gardening. I use a tape measure to make sure plants are all evenly spaced.
And that I can see already, like, gives you so much joy to do that. And as you're doing it, if you just take that, like, intention to have this as a way to serve your highest perspective and to serve you well, like, you're going to feel and receive that. You'll receive more from the garden, you'll receive more from the earth and the elements, and it'll just nourish you so much more. And it's something you're already doing.
Yeah, it actually does. I'm not one of those people. I've got a bit of OCD, so if they're not exactly spaced, then I just feel it's too messy and I can't deal with it.
Oh, look, we're all on the spectrum.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
Elissa, a lot of people that have been through traumatic experiences, whether it's, DV or family violence or sexual assault or all those things, sometimes they don't feel that they're have it in them to find that beautiful space to create that ritual. So and I know that it takes, you know, baby steps all the time, but you know, what is sort of one thing that they could do when they're feeling that they're not worthy of, you know, feeling any great deal of happiness because of what's happened to them?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Let me just let that land for a sec. What's coming through is really obvious at the moment is try and access a little bit of curiosity within yourself. And if you can cultivate a way of almost being a witness and observing like where you are, it helps to give you that little bit of distance between what is happening and very real and very valid feelings that are coming up and being felt. And it also gives you the capacity to compassionately hold that space as you get a little bit curious. And one of the things that I would get curious about is the ways in which that you do connect with yourself. Do you connect through things that are a little bit more somatic and embodied? Do you feel like you can access more safety when you're moving and doing things with your body? Or do you feel like you can access things when you're more grounded and a little bit more elemental and, you know, working with the earth or maybe candles, you know, that kind, the elemental sort of side of things? Or maybe it's more energy work and you can connect more with the idea of deities, gods, goddesses, energetic spirit guides, you know. So it's almost like love languages in a lot of ways. When you know what your love language is and when you know the ways that you can easily connect with yourself that actually feels, and it's not that they feel good, it just they feel safe. Like that's the way. And when you start to cultivate that safety for yourself, it opens that window of tolerance a little bit more and you're able to lean into things that might feel a little bit scary, like a good feeling. And it's just an invitation to explore, try things out. You know, some people absolutely hate water. I used to not be a water person at all. And don't get me wrong, I still don't love going for swims in the ocean or anything like that. But I now have this different appreciation for water than I used to. And that was just that curiosity, like it started with a shower. So yeah, the invitation there is to just try different things, see what fits, see what doesn't fit. And also know that everything is an evolution and where you are now will change. Everything always changes.
Absolutely. I mean, the world is changing every second. So
yeah.
But yeah, it can be quite scary to feel that modicum of happiness when, you know, you've not been used to that feeling for it could be for years. And when you're right, you know, being intentional and finding just in a small way something that brings you joy. It doesn't matter whether it's a star or a kitten or something, but you just find something and bring that into your life and just keep on working with that particular thing, I think is the way to go.
Yeah. And I you know, I love the premise that, you know, our focus creates our reality. And on the back of that, like our brain doesn't focus, like doesn't actually process like the negative, the I don't want XYZ. So if I was to say I don't want pain, my brain doesn't actually hear the don't. So I get pain and I get more pain. So it's focusing on what I do want. I want to feel safe. You know, don't even go to happy. If that feels like it's like scary, don't even go to that place yet. Just go to like, I just want to feel safe. I want to cultivate safety. And you'll start to notice different ways that safety will be available to you in ways that you might not thought of possible before. So yeah, that premise around your focus creates your reality. When you can really focus on what it is that you want to experience and what you want to cultivate, that does feel safe to you, especially when you're resolving trauma. That's where the magic is. And the more positive experiences that you can cultivate in that, the more you will find that you'll build that tolerance, and all of a sudden happy's actually not too far away, and happy actually feels good.
Yeah. We all want to get to the place where happy feels good, all of it. And it doesn't matter whether you've been through trauma or you've not been through trauma. Happiness is something that we all strive towards, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elissa, tell me about your quiz that's on your website.
Yes, so there is this quiz that you can go and find out what your ritual type is most likely to express as, and a great place to start your ritual journey. So there are 5 different types, and each one of them will connect and express in a slightly different way. So if you go to the website and go through the quiz, you'll then be offered your type, and there is a free grounding and presence ritual. So each type will express something different to be able to ground. So a grounding exercise doesn't have to fit in a little box and look a certain way. The way that I ground and the way that you ground and every one of your listeners will all do it slightly differently and feel called to do it in slightly different ways. So yeah, the quiz is just an invitation to discover what kind of a ritual might best suit you to start your journey with, and gives you a little taster of that.
Wonderful. And you can find that at theritualwoman.au /quiz ritual type, and you find it on her website. So that, where else can people find you, Elissa, if they want to know more about what you do?
Yeah, website is a great place to start. Look, I'm not great on the socials. I will declare that. However, that's the same handle as well, theritualwoman.au, across Instagram and Facebook, as well as the website. It's all under one handle, which is great.
Yeah, find her on LinkedIn as well. Really importantly, it's the place to be now for business websites and business ventures. I think LinkedIn's becoming quite the popular place compared to other social networks. Elissa, if you were to share some knowledge, some little bit of wisdom with our listeners today, what would you advise?
Just taking a moment to connect with that. Actually, I think that's it. It is the cultivating that sense within yourself that your default is actually to check in with you first. So when somebody asks you, hey, do you want to go do XYZ? Your default isn't, yep, sure. And then you silently wish that you hadn't done that, or 3 days later you go, why did I say yes? Because I feel like as women, sort of very blanket umbrella there, we do tend to people please, have those sort of tendencies a lot more, and just say yes to a lot of things all of the time. So yeah, cultivating that, checking in with yourself first. I know, like, a dysfunctional pattern of mine, I get really excited when other people are excited, and I'll be like yes to everything, whether it's actually mine to say yes to or not. So yeah, really cultivating that pause. What that looked like for me when I first started was, I'll get back to you in 3 days. And 1 or 2 things will happen. 3 days will go by, and you've forgotten about it and the other person has forgotten about it. So obviously it wasn't that important. Or in 3 days' time, it gives you the distance to actually consider, do I actually want to do this or not? And you can go back with the answer. And if it was really important to the other person, they'll come back to you as well. So it just gives that space. So yeah, that was a really good tip that I don't know where I picked up, but it served me well.
Really great tip. Thank you for sharing that. Elissa, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today and helping us to find our little magic moments that we can all work towards and live a happier life.
Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Healing Through Love. You can get further resources, see the show notes, or simply reach out to us via our website at htlaustralia.org. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to your company next time on the Healing Through Love podcast.